We love these shelf-stable emergency meal kits to get us through hard times. Hey guys, I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. We're glad to have you. Today I'm going to be sharing with you another emergency meal kit in a bag. The meal I've got today is a cheesy chicken and wild rice soup, and I do have this kit labeled on both sides, so depending on what way you want to put this on the shelf, you'll be able to read the contents. Now, my concept with these meals in a bag is that everything in the bag is shelf stable. Just take it off your shelf and the bag contains everything that you need to prepare a complete meal, or at least a complete dish. Everything you need, including the water. Meals in a bag are an integral part of our emergency food storage plan. Now, of course, we do have a prepper pantry stocked with all sorts of shelf-stable foods that we can pull out of and make a meal in the traditional way. But sometimes, if there's an emergency going on, if there's a storm raging, you've just been through a natural disaster, maybe your power's out, you're probably stressed and been working hard, and you may just want an easier option. So there's 3 different types of meals that we turn to for situations like this. This is sort of your first line of defense when it comes to emergency food storage. The first thing are meals that are completely ready to eat, and that would be things like chunky soups, chili, SpaghettiOs. There's pouch meals like these that are complete meals ready to go. Now, the beauty of these is that they require absolutely no cooking. You could even eat these cold without even heating them if the emergency were that dire and you needed to. The next thing that we like to use are meals that require only water. So that might include things like these pouch meals, freeze-dried pouch meals. These can be cooked with just adding boiling water right to the pouch. And the other thing that we use are meals in a jar that we put together ourselves. We have a lot more variety with these, but they do need to be cooked, but they require only water and they cook really quickly, usually 10-15 minutes, and they're done. The third type of meals that we like to use for emergencies are our meals in a bag, like the one we're preparing today, or this chicken and dumplings is another one that I've done. There's all sorts of options. Those are a little bit more complicated in that they usually have multiple ingredients and require some cooking. But the meal in a bag makes sure that all of those ingredients are together, everything you need, including the water. They're ready to go. They're easy to put together, quick to put together, and you get to have a home-cooked, hearty meal. So any of these options are great options. We like to have them all on hand. They can all be great for different situations. You can even use these type of meals to put together a few weeks worth of menus so that you have food to get you through the first few weeks of any disaster, crisis, or emergency that you may find yourself in. Now, of course, we do have playlists on all of these different types of meals, so go ahead and check those out if you're interested in finding out some more ideas. So I'm going to show you the ingredients that we're using for this cheesy chicken and wild rice soup. So the basis of this dish is going to start with a box of this Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice pilaf mix. Now keep in mind that the brands are different, mostly in the difference in the size. This is Uncle Ben's. I know that Rice-A-Roni makes one too, and they're both equally as good, but they both have a vast different amount of rice in it, and that can affect the thickness of your soup. I did that once with a different recipe I have, which calls for the Rice-A-Roni package, and I used an Uncle Ben's because it's what I have. And there was so much extra rice in the Uncle Ben's that it wasn't even a soup. It was just basically a creamy rice dish. So pay attention to the brand in this one particular case. The next thing we're going to be using is a couple of cans of Campbell's cream of potato soup. Now, I really like Campbell's soups. I feel like this is one instance where I would usually rather buy the name brand rather than the generic, but if you have a generic version that you like, go ahead and use that by all means. We're going to be using a quart of shelf-stable milk. You can get these right at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. This is exactly a quart, so this is going to be 4 cups, which is exactly what our recipe calls for. And these are usually good for at least 6 months. I try to make sure that everything I'm including in my meals in a bag has a shelf life of at least 6 months. And every 6 months, if you haven't used up this meal, I always rotate these out. You can either prepare the meal and eat it on a busy night, or you can just take the ingredients out, rotate them into your pantry, and create fresh meals in a bag. We're also going to be using a can of canned chicken. This is the larger can. This is a 12.5-ounce can. Now, the original recipe that I used in creating this did not call for chicken. It was just a cheesy wild rice soup. So I added the chicken in to bulk it up and to add a little bit more protein, a little bit more nutrition, but you certainly don't have to add this if you're vegetarian, or if you don't want to add the chicken, you maybe don't have the chicken on hand and you don't want to spend the money on it. I know the price has really gone up on this canned chicken. I bought these quite a while ago, so I didn't have to pay that price, but this is an optional ingredient. And we're going to need some water. And this is almost exactly the right amount of water that we need. So I've got 1 bottle of water in here. And then for the cheesy part, we're using a couple of blocks of these. These are Velveeta. And these came out of this package of Velveeta fresh packs. And each pack is 4 ounces, and I needed 8 ounces of Velveeta. They did not have one package of Velveeta that was 8 ounces. They sell a 16-ounce package, but not an 8-ounce package. So I went with these, which are a little bit more expensive, and there's no store brand, but I thought this was worth it. The other thing you could do if you can't find these is Dollar Tree does sell Velveeta cheese sauce in pouches, and you could use a few of those probably. It's going to be a little bit different texture because these are thick and solid, and that's a little bit more liquid, but it would do the trick if you can't find these. And then everything else in here is just either to garnish the soup or to eat with it. So we've got some bacon bits to add on top when the soup is finished. And this is just a little container of freeze-dried chives. Now, I wanted to use the freeze-dried chives. I do have some small Mylar bags coming in the mail, and that's what I'm going to start using when I put these together for any kind of seasonings and additional ingredients that I have to include. But for the time being, I thought that this little teeny baby food jar that I happen to have laying around was a great way to store these chives. These did come out of this container. This is a quart-sized jar of freeze-dried chives from Mother Earth products. We love Mother Earth products. I get a lot of things from them. I get my instant beans from them. I've gotten tomato powder from them. I love these freeze-dried chives. And then the final thing in the bag is just a bag of soup and oyster crackers. This is just to put on top. This is going to help make the soup a little bit heartier and fill bellies a little bit more and give it a little bit of texture, a little bit of crunch. We love crackers on our soup. So that's the final ingredient here. Now, another thing that you could do is we always seem to have these little packages laying around, maybe from takeout food. The kids get these from school sometimes. You can actually order these little packs on Amazon. So this would be another option. If you didn't want to include the larger bag of oyster crackers, you could put these small bags, one for each member of the family that you're planning on serving. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I add all these ingredients into the bag. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and prepare this meal so that you can see what it looks like prepared. This is what we're going to have for dinner on this cool fall day. Now, I do have this bag labeled, and this is easier to do before you put the ingredients in the bag. Now, I'll put links to this bag, and there's a smaller version of this bag. I have both, depending on how many ingredients go into my meal in a bag. These are actually stick-on self-adhesive CD sleeves, and then I just put the name of the dish on this piece of cardstock, and then on the back I have written the instructions and the recipe. And then because I didn't think that this sleeve would fit on the shorter side of the bag, and I probably am going to want to place them on the shelf this way, I wanted to be able to read this side. I did use one of my chalkboard labels and my chalkboard marker to create a label that just has the name. In hindsight, I do think that this label might have actually worked well here because this was much stickier than I thought it was going to be. So I might try putting it on this end of the next bag that I do when I'm using these large bags. The bags that are slightly smaller, it definitely wouldn't fit here because I think there's one less inch across this side of the bag. But I'll have links to all these items down in the description in case you want to get the same thing that I have here, but you can absolutely come up with your own system. You could use paper shopping bags. You could use gift bags from the Dollar Tree. You can use Ziploc bags. I have done these in gallon, 2 gallon, and 2.5 gallon Ziploc bags before. So whatever you want to use and whatever works for you, but I will have links to all these things down in my description box. Now, one thing I do really like is I like that these bags do have that cardboard insert down on the bottom, so it gives them a little bit more stability when you're carrying them around and when you're placing them on your shelf. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the milk first. And this doesn't really matter. You can put these in any way that you want. This is just how I'm doing this. We'll do the rice, the 2 cans of soup, the bottle of water, the can of chicken, the blocks of Velveeta, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the bacon bits, the freeze-dried chives, and the oyster crackers. And that's everything that we need to create this soup. You could always fold over the top and staple it if you wanted. Just carry it by the handles. This is all ready to go. All right, so now I'm going to cook this meal up so you can see what it looks like when it's all prepared. And what I'm going to use to cook it on is our little Coleman butane stove. This is what we use for cooking indoors during emergencies. It's Coleman. This is a very simple, very inexpensive stove. This is 8,000 BTUs, and this is more than enough to cook anything you would need to cook. I think I paid around $20 for this. It's probably about $25 now. I will definitely put a link down in the description box. But this is a great little stove to have for cooking in an emergency. It does take this butane fuel canister. I'm going to go ahead and lock that into place. And we're going to start by cooking the rice according to the package directions. Now the package directions call for 2 1/4 cups of water. There's about 2 cups in these bottles of water. And I think it would be fine without the additional water because it's going to become a part of our soup. So there's going to be plenty of liquid. But what I'm going to do is I'm also going to drain the liquid from the can of chicken into the pot along with the water and use that for cooking the rice. Don't forget the liquid in all of your canned foods. During an emergency, it could be a vital source of extra liquid, whether it's to drink or to cook with or to flavor your food. So I'm going to go ahead and dump in this rice and the seasoning mix packet that came with it. And then I'm going to add in the bottle of water. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this chicken. This one has a pop top, so we didn't even need a can opener, which is awesome. I'm going to go ahead and open this up and drain off this extra liquid right into the pot with the rice. And then I'm going to go ahead and light my burner. And then we're just going to bring this up to a boil. I'm going to give it a good stir to make sure everything's blended. I'm going to bring this up to a boil, put a lid on it, and it's going to simmer for 20 minutes. And that should make our rice just about done. I'm not going to worry too much about if it's perfectly done because, like I said, this is going to become part of the soup, so it's not going to matter. All right, so this is boiling, so I'm going to go ahead and lower the heat down to a simmer. I'm going to add the lid and let this boil for 20 minutes. All right, so the timer's just gone off. My 20 minutes is up, and the rice is just about done. You can see there's a tiny bit of liquid remaining, but that's okay because this is going to become part of our soup. So I do have my recipe card here that was stuck right on to the side of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and add the soup, the cans of soup, and the milk. This soup is going to come together really easily from this point on. Now, I think all the cans that I packed do have the pop tops, but you need to remember for emergencies to always have your manual can openers on hand just in case. So this is the cream of potato soup. We're going to be adding 2 cans of these. You'll have to excuse the noise of my canner in the background. I'm canning up some Mississippi pot roast. That has to go for 90 minutes, so there was no way around it. Now we do have a box. We call it our emergency cooking kit, and it does have some pots, pans, utensils. Everything that we would possibly need to cook a meal is all together in that kit. That's where the stove usually lives too. And we do keep that down cellar just in case we had to evacuate down to our cellar in a hurry. You know, it could be anything from a tornado to a nuclear threat, anything like that. Any reason that we would be going down to our cellar, it would be there so that we would have what we needed to cook meals down there if we were stuck down there. It's also easy to grab. We know right where it is if we were to be evacuating our home and we wanted to bring some basic food and cooking utensils with us. I do have a video on putting that together. If you want to see that, I will link that down in the description box and up in the iCards so you can check that out. All right, so now that we've got the cream of potato soup in there, we're going to add the milk. It's 4 cups of milk, which is one of these containers, these quart containers, perfectly from Dollar Tree. If you don't have a Dollar Tree, I'm sure you can get these at the regular grocery store as well. I always shake these well before I open them up just to make sure that they're well mixed. Now these do tend to have a shelf life of at least 6 months, usually a little bit longer, but they're good after their shelf life. This one right here is actually expired. I have people who will give me their cartons that have expired or are about to expire because they know that I'll use them. They stay good for quite a while afterwards. So I'm using this one up because I have some expired ones to use up, but when I put some more of these meals together to store in my pantry, I'll use brand new ones that I just bought, so they'll have the longer shelf life. But it's just good to know it's one of those things, like most things, it stays good for quite a while after the expiration date. All right, so we've got our cream of potato soup and our milk. I'm going to go ahead and add the Velveeta cheese. There's going to be 8 ounces of Velveeta. there's our 8 ounces of Velveeta. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat up on this a little bit. And bring this up to a simmer, and I'm going to blend this all together until the cheese is melted and the soups have blended in. And once this is all blended and melted together, then we're going to add the chicken, heat it through, and it's going to be ready to serve. So this is a very simple recipe, but it's also going to be very hearty, very filling, and very comforting. And all of those things are going to be very important in an emergency. But these meals aren't only good for emergencies. These are great for busy nights or stressful times when someone in the house is sick, especially if it's mom or whoever usually does the cooking. These are great meals for, you know, significant other who doesn't normally cook to be able to pick up a bag and make a quick meal easily. A teenager in the house could make these. These are great to send to friends who are sick, friends who have had a surgery or a new baby, anything where they might need a quick and easy meal. If people are sending already made meals and already prepared foods, they might get overwhelmed with that. So it would be nice to have something that they can put on the shelf and eat when it's convenient for them. These would also be great to send with your college students or your young adult children when they're first leaving the home, especially if they don't have a lot of experience in cooking. And anyone that you just want to have some good shelf-stable meals on hand in case of any type of emergency or any type of situation. These can also be great to turn to if you have a job loss or something like that that changes your income and you aren't able to get to the store for some reason and buy food. You have something to fall back on. It's just going to take a little bit for this Velveeta to get all melted in here. I help it out a little bit by mashing it against the side of the pot. It does have some nice chunks of potato from that creamy potato soup, or cream of potato soup rather. Alright, so it's only been a few minutes. I don't even think it's been 5 minutes, and I'm not finding any more chunks of cheese in here, so I think that it's all melted in and blended in. The soup is nice and thick and smooth. It smells amazing. So the last step now is just to add in the chicken and to heat that through a little bit. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stir this in, let the chicken break up just a little bit. I didn't want it to break up too much, which is why I didn't add it when I added the soup and the milk and the cheese. But we'll let this heat through and let the chicken break up just a little bit. If you find any big chunks, you can break them against the side of the pot. Now, like I said, the chicken is definitely an optional ingredient because the original recipe that I took this from didn't call for any chicken. That's something that I added on my own. So if you want to leave the chicken out, you can certainly do that. You could probably also add in a can of diced ham or even maybe some Spam that you've diced up yourself. Anything like that would be delicious in this. I think it would even be good with some seafood, maybe a can of salad shrimp or some clams or something like that. I think would be delicious in this if you like seafood. And I will link to the original recipe that I took this from down in the description box if you want to check that out as well. Right, so this soup is completely heated through. It's starting to steam. I don't really want to boil it because it has dairy products in it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this burner off and we're ready to serve. All right, here we go. It's time to ladle this up. This made a lot of soup. I don't have my best ladle here, but this will do the trick. All right, it's time to garnish. We've got some bacon here. Got some of these freeze-dried chives. And of course we've got the oyster crackers. Isn't that a beautiful plate of soup? That looks so good. Time to try it. All right, guys, I cannot wait to try this soup. It looks amazing. It smells amazing. This is delicious. This is the kind of soup that my family likes. We're not really soup people, so we like soup when it's thick and rich and hearty, things like chilies and really thick chowders, creamy soups like this. These are the kind of soups that we like. This is the kind of soup that can make a meal. Now, if you want, you could definitely throw a can of fruit or a can of vegetable into the bag with this to serve alongside so that you had some more vegetable content in this, because this doesn't really have any vegetables included in the soup. So I would throw in maybe a can of pears or something like that to serve alongside with it. But this is a very hearty, very filling soup. It's going to be great for a meal during an emergency situation or any day. Well, I really love this soup. I can't wait to serve it to my family and see how everyone else likes it. So I'm going to go feed the masses, and then I'll be back for the final report and let you know how they liked it. Well, guys, the soup was definitely a hit with my family. Everyone loved it. I hope that it will be a hit with your family as well. I thought of another good use for these emergency meals in a bag. Besides emergencies and all the other reasons that I listed, these are great to take traveling with you. My sister takes a lot of meals like this when she travels because vacations are expensive. And so to help her stick to the budget, she always rents a place with a kitchen and does all of her own cooking to save money on eating out. And so bringing meals like this allows her to have all the ingredients with her so that she doesn't have to take the time to go shopping and have to be shopping in unfamiliar stores where she might not get the best deals. So that's another great use for this kind of meals. If you enjoy these kind of videos, we do have some playlists on meals in a bag and meals in a jar, emergency meal kits, things like that. So go on and check those out. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a soup emoji down in the comments. I'm Jera with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.